Free Ken credit.
Give it like 5 seconds and you should be good to go.
Native plants not taken seriously, and then he has the best job of the year.
You tell me when we're good.
We're good.
All right, 6:01, I'll call the meeting to order. Want to do roll call?
Bruce Blargen,
Here?
Katie Thermos,
Here.
Marie Colbeth, Bob Gunther,
Here.
Patty Jo Forsberg,
Here.
Catherine Cranston,
Here.
Lori Blargen.
Here.
All right. So, take a look at the protocols, click on that little link there. The district mission, together we engage, educate, empower all learners, bridging their passions to pathways to create successful futures, and positively contribute to our local and global communities. Before we move on, I would like to have someone make a motion to reorganize this agenda.
So move.
Okay, so we want Dave first, is that correct, Patty?
Oh.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
What?
We have a little child sitting out in the,
Okay, so you wanna go first?
Or close to first.
First,
If
that's
Dave-
okay.
Depends on how long.
Dave's
he's
isn't gonna take that long.
That's fine.
But we can
That's
engage
fine.
in the
Yep.
dialogue after he leaves, but
So,
Can we do it together?
Brandon, you can go. Okay.
you okay?
That shouldn't take too long.
So I'd like to make a motion that we reorganize the, oh, there's Marie. Make number 5, number 4, number 6, number 5, and then number 4, number 6.
Can you say that one more time, Lori?
Start with the one-to-one initiative.
Okay.
Make 5 number 4, make number 6 number 5, and move number 4 down to number 6.
Got it.
A second.
okay, motion passes. All right, so Marie, we just reorganized the agenda.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah.
Here.
4 to after 6, correct?
So this will be the first one.
Yep.
Brendan, go ahead.
Alright, let's go. Trish and I and Tracy Andestead have been working on a one-to-one kind of, oh, yeah, you got to click.
I can
We're
click
good,
it.
okay,
Yep.
so, one-to-one initiative, we're looking at to start next year. And we're just gonna give you a little rundown on what we've come up with, for like funding wise, for what it's gonna look like to implement, and then the reasons behind why we're doing so.
and this is informational in nature. We've been working on this for a few years. The strategic plan has 2 of our different strategy areas and result statements that are directly tied to student access, and part of the action plans are one-to-one. So we wanted to come forth and let you know where we are in the process.
First couple slides are why we're going one-to-one. Biggest reason is it's in our strategic plan in 2 areas. It's in the core and the action teams. So the first one, obviously, utilize innovative technology to enhance communication and student learning. And then all learners will access technology they need to attain their goals to thrive in both the local and global communities. So we have it twice there within our strategic plan. We didn't want to put it exactly like, have to go one-to-one because you never know what the future holds. But that's what it's looking like to go for in the future for Wisconsin schools. And as you see down there, we have some statistics on the school districts in the state of Wisconsin and in our CISA. Right now, we're currently one of 23% of the school districts in Wisconsin who don't have a one-to-one in any shape or form, any grade levels. So from K to 12, we have no one-to-one initiative. We're in something like another 100 schools in the state out of 500 and some have, or don't have it either. So we're kind of getting behind the 8 ball in that sense. And then in our CISA, 11, Trish, how many do you think are in our CISA 11?
45.
So we're one of like 3 or 4 schools that do not have a one-to-one initiative in any shape or form. So on the education side, in the classroom side, you have more personalized learning implementation opportunities. You can use a computer to help you plan students, how they're going to learn basically that unit. You don't have to pigeonhole anybody into one specific learning style. And it's a lot easier to utilize like your Google Classrooms and stuff like that if every student has a computer every day. Communication obviously is a big improvement. We can have our snow days and our sick days and actually count those in minutes and things like that, and communicate with our students while they're at home. Even if they're sick, they can sit at home and do the work, or we have been utilizing YouTube Live in the high school so the students could actually watch while the teacher is giving the lesson, or explaining what they're supposed to be doing that day. And they can do that. Otherwise, you have more assessment and feedback possibilities. One example is like Google Sheets or Google Docs. You can more easily, like say, edit a paper or give some feedback on the paper with Google Docs. And if the student has that all the time, they can, in real time watch the teacher grade their paper or grade a rough draft or something like that. Just an example.
I need help with that. Can I
Yeah,
come in?
sure, go ahead. Yeah, absolutely. Student-centered classroom. We're past the days of rote fact, rote memorization. If you can look it up on Google, there's really no sense to be actually standing up and teaching it. Now we're teaching the big picture more, and this will help with the student-centered focus on that. I don't know how many of you sit around at a presentation and you're looking up whatever they're presenting on. I do that quite a bit, and this is something that students can do all the time if they have that device in front of them. Enhanced collaboration and group work. Right now, especially in the high school, we have a big need for this because students aren't always in the same class at the same time. And this will enhance that, so they always have the devices in front of them so they can and work on whatever project they're going for. Decreases teaching technology as a standalone subject. This is a big one. Right now we're taking, we'll go in and get a cart, and the second one, the last one there has it too. You go and get a card or sign up for a lab and you teach that unit with that technology. Now the technology is more integrated within every unit instead of doing the same paradigm that we've been doing for 30 years now. Go to the class, go to the computer lab, learn this lesson, maybe go back the next 2 weeks from now, or maybe go back tomorrow and finish that lesson in that unit. I mean, I grew up with that where you went in and we played, Sim City. It's still the same. We haven't shifted away from that. We have more devices, but we're still tailoring lessons around the technology we can use at the time, and we'd like to get away from that. One-to-one will help us there.
New technology standards were also released this year that we're in the process of crosswalking across content areas. They don't stand alone any longer. They are actually to be crosswalked among science standards, social studies standards, ELA, math, etc. So setting the stage for this, we've been working on this for several years, but waiting for the right time because there's an expense associated with this, and then of course professional development and so on. So part of our setting the stage was moving to Google Apps for Education, which we did several years ago, and we've been doing professional development throughout the years. We've even designated our February PD Day for the last several years to be an Ed Tech Day, where we offer individualized, differentiated PD by our tech team. We formed a tech team after the strategic plan rolled forward. That tech team has been attending and offering ongoing professional development both at TIES and at Slate, and bring that information back to our staff to grow them from wherever they currently are. All staff members received Chromebooks this year so that they can support the implementation and the use of Chromebooks in their classroom with their students next year. That was a bit of a transition. It's a little different than a laptop, as some of you have noticed, but gets us to some of the same outcomes.
Trish, I have a question.
You bet.
You can't get Smartboard on a Chromebook, so how does that help a teacher make lessons at home?
So we do have our virtual desktop still set up through here that they can go virtually online and use our smart
Okay.
notebook. That direction, you bet. Our new curricular resources all include interactive online classroom components. So this year we brought in Science K-12, but the last 2 years have been Science. There's a whole interactive piece where they can engage with the content areas. Social Studies came on board. Theirs is all online, plus with a supportive text. Math going forward, we'll wrap up math adoption this year and roll it out over the 2 fiscal years. Math also has a strong online component. So ELA was prior to all of this, and they also have an online component. All of our resources right now are really interactive.
And that's a big one for equity. We don't utilize that as much as we should because of the equity piece. We can't guarantee that students can always access it.
So we have been networking and collaborating with our sister schools around the area and researching and planning. Some of the places that we have been working are, again, Slate. Slate is a leadership conference that's held annually all wrapped around technology leadership. I don't really know what Slate stands for, technology
Who
leadership
knows?
and blah, blah, blah. Anyway,
Yeah.
we bring our tech team there from all levels, elementary through high school, as well as our LMC folks and an administrator go, and they learn all sorts of good stuff. And that is all about leadership. So we've been studying schools that are our size and how they've rolled it out and what they've learned from their rollouts.
I'll be presenting at that hopefully next year too. So it's just big technology education conference.
St. Croix Central, we've been working with their tech integrationists on how they rolled out PD, also how they moved budget money around to make this happen, what additional monies they needed after referendum. St. Croix Falls, also consultations with their director. Hudson, we looked at their professional development rollout plans, parent communication, all of those pieces that are part of this package. And then, of course, CISA 11, we have our networking meetings, our IT meetings, our LMS networking meetings, and this is always a hot topic. Today I talked to Barron, who has had this in place for 6 years. So,
And do all these already have it in place then?
Equipment costs, we're looking at roughly about a $250 cost for the Chromebooks, which is, it's never been cheap, or it's never been it's never been easier to implement the one-to-one with the Chromebooks coming online. Management consoles just are how we push software out, how we help to manage the IT side of it. With a Windows-based system, it's very, very tough to do. You have to have a very large IT staff to manage the entire system. Now, with Matt and Jason and Aaron, plus our LMSs, we can manage this. So that's about $250. Then you're looking at a case of $35 to help, with the breakage and dropping and all that stuff, to make it more so that students can use it and not damage them. And then the backup Chromebooks, because obviously some are going to get damaged or some are going to break, will be in the LMC and paid for through common school funds.
So how many do you're gonna need?
oh, it's
We're
coming up here.
right-
Oh, sorry.
We'll
We're
keep
right there.
rocking. Along with that, we have costs for professional development. Here's our tentative plan. We are looking at grades 7 through 12. Pretty easy to roll out one-to-one at a middle school because 7th graders take 7th grade classes, 8th graders take 8th grade classes, and so on. With our high school and the flex mod, it will really benefit that instructional methodology. So we are looking 7-12, looking at giving our educators and special ed folks this summer 2 half-days. Everyone teaches summer school around here. So we're gonna do 2 half-days this summer and then dedicate time during our 4 PD days, September, November, February, and March. We have those costs in there, and then after, these are tentative then, we're looking forward, we have a lot of needs assessments to do after year 1. But if we move to 412, which is our ultimate goal, is a 412 environment, continuing that professional development out, unit by unit, integrating technology, using the Sanders method.
Just a quick reference on current enrollment, because that does, you talked about the costs.
Yeah.
And so that definitely plays into it.
So we watch the numbers, you can see we have some bigger classes and some smaller classes behind it, so it's shifting of resources as well as the teachers that teach those grade levels.
Just a recommended device of what we're looking at. You don't have to really know exactly what we're looking at, but it's just a Chromebook. We're looking at probably not the cutting edge, but pretty close to it, because we're looking for a 3-year cycle with these. To stretch to 4 is asking a little bit much of the technology that we have. You probably look for a more expensive one, and that might not be as easy to implement.
Okay, so funding for this, we have been shifting dollars around within the IT budget and the curriculum budget. So we have $81,000 currently that we will be using to help implement the entire program PD and devices. DPI is also trying to push districts in order to have equitable access to technology. So they are offering a grant for the next 5 years. This is year 1. where they'll give us $125 per freshman, enrolled freshman. We are to match that as part of the grant to get us that $250, which is about what a Chromebook costs. So they are planning on having that in the budget for the next 4 years, as far as we know. This was only year one.
Automatically, not something you have to apply for?
We have to fill out paperwork.
Okay.
So it's not a competitive grant. It is just absolutely based on the numbers they pull right from our SIS on
As long
how
as you
many
fill out
kids.
the paperwork.
So we look at those freshman numbers like big class, you know, let's go. Now that the referendum has passed and we're looking at budgets, Dave is working on some budgets that you'll see several times before it's finally approved. The initial implementation, we will need to be supplemented and then it will back off. Because we looked at our current devices that are still very usable, but we also have several, we have one brand in particular.
What's wrong? It's okay, she'll hang up, I'll call her in a minute, thank you.
We are replacing, we have Lenovo's across the campus that are just not durable enough even for on-campus use. So we've been trying to replace those. We looked at our inventory right now and based on what we have, and based on what we can hand out and what we have to purchase, we'll need year one, 61,500 and year two, 25,000. We also have several factors that will impact how we roll this forward. We want to start 712. We may stay there for a while. We may expand to 412, depending on several things. Needs assessment across campus. We will maintain our carts, maintain access for the other grade levels. We also have small stations in each one of the elementary classrooms because of the ELA adoption that we did several years ago, or a couple years ago. Local budget allocations, and of course, any enrollment changes of our own staff, our own kiddos. So here's what it looks like.
Here's the meat and potatoes of it all. This is our proposal one with 712. First year, we're looking at about $133,000. That will get a 7th, 8th, 10th, and 11th grade new Chromebooks, and then the better, or the less,
Still
the
functioning.
newer, the still functioning Chromebooks we have in place right now. I think we've just bought, about 250 of them new this last year or two. So those will go to the 9, 12. As then, when they become 12 or 10th graders, the 9th graders get new ones anyway, as you see in year 2. And then we can also cycle after year 2. We can cycle those back into Chromebook carts for the 4th and 5th grade and the elementary school as well. And as you see, it goes from 133 to about 66,000, depending on the classes sizes in year 2. And then obviously we have a very small 7th grade class in year 3. That's why the price drops there as well. But you're looking at about $65,000 a year to implement 2 new classes.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I'm just trying to clarify.
Yep, no
So
problem.
are you buying all of the Chromebooks at once?
Yes, we're buying, so we're, year 1, you're looking at a roughly 500 Chromebooks, say 450. And then the next year, you're looking at more in the range of about 250, 240.
We're hoping to get a 3-year cycle out of the Chromebooks.
Right.
We've updated our user policies, we've updated how we would insure them against damage, agreements with parents, we've done all of those components. We're hoping to get 3 years out of them. In talking to St. Croix Falls, they're only 1-to-1, 9-12, so they're trying to get 4 years. It's a little dicey. Currently, we're excited that students will have ownership in a device that then they will maintain and care for, because currently, we spend a lot of time with damaged keyboards, damaged screens, those parts that actually will be cost saving in the long run.
And St. Croix Falls found too the same thing as when they had the first class, so they 6th graders had it, or the 9th graders, whoever. They always found that first year there's damage. You know, they don't know how to properly care for them, but as they go, they learn it. So, you know, as we teach them more in how to care for the devices and they have ownership of it, that cost there for repairs will be lessened.
And we get parents involved.
Yes, exactly. So proposal 2, this is if we went 3 years down the line and added 4, 5, and 6, how that might look. And as you see, in the 3rd year, you're adding another class onto it, so the price then would be about $95,000 a year to add 3 classes of Chromebooks.
The dollars we're working with right now are all based on estimates. If we went out to RFP, we would have better pricing. Our last proposal is just moving 712 next year as we roll it out, and then expanding that immediately to 412. So we've got 3 different options depending on our needs assessment, depending on how budget looks in the subsequent years and so on. Next year, we're just looking at 712. So our next steps when we roll out this plan is going to RFP so that we can get tighter pricing and understanding of what the associated costs will be. Planning our summer professional development, finding dates that work for most of our staff that are included, making sure our policies and guidelines are really tight and we're able to communicate those along with our internal insurance. Most of our districts that we checked with just insured internally, which what that means is they self-insured, so parents would choose to opt into a internal plan that we generate and we maintain, where students pay $30 to $50, basically is what we saw in the range, that covered them basically the first time they damaged it, and so on, with costs associated. And it seems to work really well for our surrounding districts. Parent communication, deployment of devices, release day, what does that look like for professional development? And then research the need, first the need, and then the options for student home access if we are gonna go there with digital learning days and so on. So that is it. We just wanted to kind of bring you up to speed on some of the things our tech team and our Jason, Matt, and Aaron, and Brandon, Tracy, and Alex have been working on as we move forward to move toward a one-to-one initiative. Anything else, Brandon, from your
I
side?
don't think so.
I have a question. So when you say the parents can opt in for the $50 or whatever for the insurance program, they wouldn't have to?
Then they would be responsible for damages.
And would there be any leeway made for free and reduced lunch or anything like that?
We can certainly control that because it would all be internal.
Okay, because I know, I'm just thinking about summer school, they sent out an email that specifically said, if this is a problem for you and you are on free and reduced, call. And that was a big deal for a couple people. Their kids would not be in our summer school without that specific email. They wouldn't even have known to ask. So when that comes up, just make parents aware that that is an option.
And that's part of this whole thing too, is that
Well, it's
whole
the
equity
equity
piece.
But
Which is-
$50 might make or break somebody.
Yeah. Especially at the beginning of the year.
Mhm.
Yes,
So I'm just asking you to be mindful of that.
absolutely.
Can I still ask for clarification, because I'm still not clear?
Yeah.
If we go to page 12 on our thing, which is the proposal 1.
Mhm.
Okay, so year 1, we're buying 500, 7th and 8th grade new, 10th, 11th are new. And it says year 2, 7th is new.
So the way this would roll out, it works really beautifully to issue 7th graders a Chromebook. Hi, you're in 7th grade, sit down, here's your Chromebook, here's your case, here's how you carry it, here's how we care for it, talk to the parents, and it becomes the cycle. So in 7th grade, a student would get a Chromebook, and they would be responsible for the wear and tear and ownership of that Chromebook for 7th grade, 8th grade, and 9th grade. There's your 3-year cycle. At grade 10, they would get a new, we'd say, hello, 10th graders, welcome,
I just was not reading this correctly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry.
Forgetting that the
Yep.
7th
Does that make
graders were
sense now?
moving up to 8th grade.
Yep.
Oh, no.
I got it,
So
That
3-year
helps.
cycles, and that's why 4th, 7th, 10th works well.
Yeah.
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 And also 4th grade, we started big testing in 3rd grade. But we would maintain carts, we would maintain classroom labs, and so on. This also allows us to reduce our kind of wired labs a little bit.
Yeah.
We have to maintain some for Project Lead the Way, our computer graphics class. At the middle school, we have some CAD pieces, our Fab Lab. We need to have high-powered laptops across, but not typically for the everyday usage, especially that we are a strong Google school. So we'll keep you posted as we go forward. I'm working with Dave, we're working with DPI. Keep you in the loop.
What does this do for IT? How
The-
much more IT power, horsepower are we gonna need to fix the Chromebooks that are broken or not connecting? I just know in Hudson, they have a person at the middle school, that's all he does, is fix Chromebooks. So I don't think we have that on staff right now.
So IT's been working with us all along the way. We meet every other week and we've been working through this. Currently, this is what happens. We take a big stacks of Chromebooks, we bring them to IT, they put them in boxes and we ship them off to get fixed. We're hoping those big stacks become little stacks. I mean, accidents happen, but
But if we have,
with a student having their own. One plan that was introduced that we saw at Slate was called the Tech Ninjas. And you know, you've got those kids across campus who that's their thing, right? So a lot of times, replacing a keyboard, like just this piece, or popping in and out of a new screen are things we can do locally. And so it would be one of those parts that we can introduce to our students, like who wants to be part of the Tech Ninja team, and train them to help support IT. Might be a nice extension of the classroom. It also would give them some more ownership.
Still, is IT capable right now to take over that extra work
On the,
that we're gonna have with these Chromebooks?
it would, probably a lot of it would fall on like myself and Tracy for the everyday to day thing, and we can do it. The nice thing about the Chromebooks is that it's very self-sufficient. We don't have the problems that maybe a Windows device would have. You're not installing things as you would with a Windows device. I would say probably the biggest issue would be like breakage, and then we just send those off. Right? So it's taking it from the high school or the middle school down to the IT office and doing that. So I don't foresee a lot on the software end.
We also had, our last meeting talked about what is their summer workload. You know, most of our high def cameras have been installed now. Some of those big pieces are complete. So the next big part of their summer work will be RFP, examining RFPs, placing the orders, getting them in and putting them in the console. So we've been having these conversations, and so far, everything's pretty calm. Feeling pretty good about it.
In that budget that you have, is that above what you currently have then, or that's just within your IT budget? I have 133,000 and it goes to.
So the 81,000 will come out of our budget that we've reallocated.
Yep.
Plus the 16,000 from the DPI sends in, and then the rest we would need in addition to for year 1 and year 2.
So
That
you-
was the
You
slide
would need the
61 to get us
61,000.
started.
Okay, and then next year,
25.
in year 2, you would need 60,000 additional, or that would be covered within the budget for next year.
There we go. There it is.
So if you have 133, you're getting 86, you said?
It'd be actually 97.
97.
So we need, what is that, 36? Yeah, about 36.
So you need 36,000 this year, and then next year, that 66,000 that you need, would that be part of the 86,000? So you really have,
If we stick with this one, we'll be able to cover it in year 2.
okay, so it'd just be a year 1, and the rest of the years would just be covered in the IT budget?
Yeah.
When we get to this year, and if that DPI grant goes away, there's other factors too that pop up. You know, our smart boards, we have a replacement cycle for smart boards, we have a replacement cycle for teacher laptops that are running right now our teachers have a Chromebook and they also have a laptop. The laptop is running their smart boards in their classroom, so they have more power, and so we've got some cycles for that we would have to work with Dave and work into the budget as we move forward.
Yeah, that's what when we purchase them all at once for the most part. And then we'd have to do the same in a few years unless we.
So the year 1 implementation is always the toughest one because of the high school. You can implement it in the middle school very easily because they're all self-contained. Like 7th grade, you can all give them 7th grade Chromebooks, and then you get them in 8th grade because they're not sharing classes. The high school, you either go all or nothing. You can't have 3/4 of your class using Chromebooks and you have a quarter of them that don't have it. The equity doesn't work there, and then they won't get used. Teachers aren't going to use them if a quarter of their students don't have them. So that's why the year 1's always big, because you have 4 of those classes that are getting new ones. Well, then that goes down to 2 in year 2, and 2 in year 3, and 4 and 5 if we continue on this same track. If we want to then include 4th grade, then we include another class, now you're at 3. But like Trish was saying, that's yet to be seen. We don't know what factors will be 2 or 3 years down the line.
And we will recycle those Chromebooks that are still highly functioning. Remember, we still have kindergartners on Chromebooks, and 1st graders, 2nd graders, 3rd graders. So we've got carts that we're constantly replenishing across campus, and that's what we would do with those.
Does the 133 cover the professional development costs, or is that separate?
Yes, that's in there. We had implemented that in there.
I think it sounds really reasonable for going 1-to-1, and I'm disappointed to see that we're in that 3% of the CISA 11, 23% of the state.
It's time.
It's definitely time.
Yep.
And I think the consistency with everyone on Chromebook instead of some on Macs and some on PCs and some on Chromebooks will make it a little easier. I would really hope to see us implement, there's certifications that kids could sign on for tending to the hardware or helping with the software, so if they could get some credits for it, you might be able to build it into a class for some of that maintenance. It seems to me, I don't know, not my area, but I do think it'd be interesting.
Thank you. Well, please let us know if you have any questions or.
You,
You're welcome.
thanks for
Thank you very
being
much.
great.
You
That's
bet.
good. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
No problem.
All right, so any questions there? Anyone? And if I have the changes that Lori had requested correctly and Katie helped me with, referendum discussion would be next as item 5. So-
Yeah, we'll move into, there's two pieces here that we need to get some direction on, and that's our financial advisors, who we contract with, and then also our architectural services, and some discussion on the process we wanna use, for construction. Again, we need to leave here with some direction, cause we need to get moving on these pieces, and especially the financial piece that Dave will talk about is time sensitive, because the rates right now are good, but we have to act fairly quickly to benefit from them. So, Dave?
Sure, if you click on the link, there's a 4-slide PowerPoint deck here. So this is after the referendum, the financial transactions that will take place, the order, the timing. From the 2 questions, question 1, recurring levy up to 1 million. So the first time we can use that is for the 1920 school year. It's to be accessed and used as needed. We don't need to levy the full amount. And that decision, the final determination, is made when the budget is officially approved in October, the end of October. So that'll be the first time that is used. Question 2, the sale of the bonds not to exceed 28.6 million. The steps in that process are issue the debt, manage the money, i.e. pay for the work, invest the money while the work is being done, and then the vendors are being paid. And then once that's complete, we start paying down that debt service. So to focus on the second question, the sale of the bonds, the district works with a financial advisor, and so there's a couple options for financial advisor. Most of them have they have a fiduciary duty to work in the district's best interest, and that's the approach that I recommend. There is one pretty good sized and often used vendor that has an underwriting desk, and so they also will buy the bonds. And so either they're not working with a fiduciary duty towards the district, or they are, and then their company is not bidding on the bonds, and so you lose a bidder. So the steps, once we agree to work with a firm, they work with us on the ratings call, where we will have a discussion with S&P or Moody's. We've called both in the past, and both have rated us in the past. Then they'll create the official statements. Those are the full documents that go out to the bidders. And then the sale itself, some of those steps underneath that, some of those pieces of information, what we look for in a financial advisor for this aspect, they have to be able to create an attractive packet for bidders. We want them to have a high volume of sales, so they know the market well. And also that speaks to timing. They work closely with us to determine what day exactly to sell. If there's a big bond sale for another school district or something, you don't want to go on that same day. Good communication between the financial advisor and the bond proceeds manager helps. Selling platform, it varies a bit. One we've used in the past has an online platform where we can actually watch and bidders can improve their bids. So they submit their bid, and they can't see other bids, but they know if they're winning or not. And so if they're not, they can keep trying to improve it. And so that's a good aspect of that. And then the fees paid by the buyer and added to the debt service. So that means that the district gets the full 28.6 million plus interest earned while it's being invested prior to being spent. And we don't pay any fees from that. Whatever entity buys it, US Bank, what have you, pays the fees, that gets added onto the debt service. So we pay that back over time through the debt service. The next slide is the following step. Once the bond is issued, once the sale has been made, those funds then need to be managed. And by that I mean we would get our drawdown schedule. That is to say the timing of how much money we intend to spend when, and based on that, and that is created from the construction manager, the project manager, the general contractor, whatever route we go on that end, they help determine what's the plan, what's the schedule to spend these funds. We use that with the bond proceeds manager so that they can identify the best investments to make for those periods of time, whether it be CDs or treasuries or what have you. And so, again, the size and timing, it helps to have the communication for the initial funds transfer. Excuse me. And we want our bond proceeds management company to have good communication. The last time we went through this, we had a lot of changes from our initial drawdown schedule to how it actually ended up happening. And so there will be opportunities to change the investments, get better returns, just based on the reality of how the work flows. You need reporting on a day-to-day basis, and also for the annual financial audit. The fees for this service are based on the investment returns themselves. So generally it's 3 basis points or so around that area, where the interest we earn, we get back most of it, but not all of it. They keep a portion, and that's their fee. So again, we're getting our full 28.6 million plus most of the interest. The fee comes from the interest earned. And so this, I've done an RFP in the past, and we can do it again. I don't have a strong preference either way. I think one of the concerns or one of the factors that would go into this is purely timing. So it'll take a couple weeks to turn around an RFP for this and pick a vendor that will affect when we can sell. But at the same time, I don't, depending on Mark's perspective for discussions with CM and so forth, which we need to have in place so that we can determine a drawdown schedule as well. All these kind of tie together. If there's a strong feeling one way or the other, that's what we'll do. I have worked with PMA in the past, and I'm comfortable working with them for this service. I'm also happy to go to RFP for this service.
What have we done in the past?
The last time we did an RFP, and PMA won that.
And there's no statute that we have to go to her?
No, these are professional services, so you don't have to take low bid on this or the architects or construction managers. The only one you'd have to is if you go with a general contractor, you have to take the lowest qualified bid.
And I will mention, PMA has been working with us. They did the projections for the levy impact and so forth at the start of this referendum process and have worked with us through it. And so I did want to mention that we have good news as far as the market looks right now. We based our referendum information on an interest rate when we sell of around 4.25. Right now, the conservative estimate within the next few months is 3.19. And so that's huge. And what that means is, effectively, there's no tax impact for the 28.6 million. So if you remember, it was 29 cents, I believe, and the operating was 33 cents. Now, based on this, we could say that 29 cents is zero. So that doesn't have anything to do with bond proceeds manager, who we pick for that. It's just a matter of what the
Timing.
market looks like
Right.
now for the actual sale.
Timing.
That's, I wanna get going.
Yeah. So what do you need from us?
Well, then it's stupid not to expedite it.
Yes.
Yeah, we just,
And if you've been working with PMA
Mhm.
and they've done a fine job.
and Dave talked a little bit about a couple of their firms that are out there that work both sides of the table that really don't have 100% in our, for us. PMA is not like that. They're working 100% for the district.
That's your recommendation?
Yep.
Dave?
I'm comfortable either way. As I said, it's really, how does it fit into the overall plan and timing of the plan? In discussion regarding the rates, I think we could still fit it in if we did an RFP and still get into the window. I'm told the window was a few months, so I think we could fit it in.
So, let me rephrase it, what would your guidance be for us? For me.
My preference would be to work with PMA again. That being said, I'm certain they would submit a response to an RFP.
I appreciate your being open to it. I do also recognize that you would prefer PMA, you recommend PMA. I don't have a problem with that. Do you want a motion this evening? So would anyone be comfortable? Do you have more questions first?
I'll make a motion to recommend
PMA.
PMA
PMA, I don't know if
for financial consultants.
Be our financial consultant, referendum.
Financial consultant and bonds proceeds manager.
Do you have that, Tasia? Does anyone want to second that?
I'll second.
Okay, Lori, and then are there any questions? I know, Lori, it looked like you had a question.
Well, I feel comfortable with the recommendation of PMA. They've been in business since 1984. They've got over 2,500 public entities in 11 states. They seem like a very reputable firm.
Got
So-
25 billion under management.
I feel very comfortable with the recommendation.
Do you want to read back what you have?
Recommend PMA to be our financial consultant and bonds proceed manager for referendum finances.
Does that cover what you needed to cover? And are you okay with that? And she's got it.
Yeah,
Anybody else have any questions?
that's exactly what I said.
Just that way, everybody's heard it, and it suffices for what you need, too.
Yeah.
So if we don't have any other further questions, we have a motion on the floor by Bob, seconded by Lori. You all heard Tasia read it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. So then on to the architectural firm.
No,
Mhm.
if you wanna stay fine, well, otherwise go home.
Yeah,
Thank you, Dave.
thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Okay, if you pull up the tab for the construction, or for architectural services here, I'm not gonna go through all these. Hopefully you've had a chance to walk through these and
I did,
Get
they
a-
were awesome.
get a basic familiarization of some of the pieces that are kind of hanging out there, which it's a chess game now. We kind of have to pick and choose what our path is going to be. And again, I'm just gonna walk through a couple of these slides, because, on that first one with the agenda, the roles, the delivery methods are very important. And a lot of this is about risk, how comfortable we feel as we move, through this process. And, the second slide there, again, talking about quality, of the work and the people that we're dealing with, the budget alignment, and how we're gonna bring this thing in on time and what the schedule is, which right now I have no clue on the scope of this work as far as how and when it's gonna be done. Obviously, I'd like to have the whole thing wrapped up by the end of next summer, but, they can, and I may have mentioned this before, you can usually schedule about 7 million on a site for a summer for school construction. And we've got, almost 30 million tearing into 3 buildings on the ground, so this may be a 2-summer project, depending on how much they can get done during the school year. Now, a lot of it's infrastructure, which is gonna be tearing these buildings apart, so I'm guessing that most of it's gonna have to be summer work, unless they get really creative, because the goal is, to maintain school as we maintain it. The thing that may change for next summer, though, we may have some changes to summer school, because we'll be down to basically the elementary, almost, that's a given. Because the middle school and high school will have some significant work being done on it, but again, we know ahead of time and we'll be able to plan for that. If you go to the next slide, we talk about just the different members of the teams and the roles. We are the owner, so what we wanna do, we'll get done. The two biggest players in this piece are two of those biggest players are the architects and either the GC or the construction manager. And I've worked both ways in the past. However, with a general contractor, you're gonna have to take the lowest bid. You don't know what you're gonna get. Construction manager, you're in control of all the bids. You hire a CM to control the bidding process, but you are contracting with these people rather than one person, which you would be in a general contracting piece. So a general contractor could get anybody he wants or she wants to do the work, and we have one point of contact there. With a construction manager, we have a lot more control over the situation. So, any questions on that? There's a couple of other roles that you could get into with program manager and owner's rep. That really depends on how comfortable you are with the architectural firm. If you have an architectural firm that you know nothing about, haven't had any contact with, really don't have a deep understanding, you may want to look at an owner's representative. Program manager is kind of a turnkey approach. I would not recommend that. I don't think you need that. The other piece is who do you have on staff that understands a construction project? And that process will determine a lot too. So, I'll give you an example. My last project, the $100 million one we did up in Elk River, we had architectural firm on board, and we did the CM approach, because my business manager and I are very well versed in construction. Plus, we had a project oversight team where we had probably about 3 or 4 Bruces on the team, where we were able to control change orders and the direction of the project, because no matter what happens, no matter how well you plan, you're gonna have issues come up during the course of the project there, especially in remodeling. That's why you'll see rates between 6 and 8% on construction services. 6 is typically brand new, breaking ground type construction, because not too much can go wrong there. Remodeling is typically in that 7 to 8%, because you never know what's gonna happen when you open up that wall. It's no different than a home, only thing a lot more zeros behind it. So again, a lot of it's about comfort level. If we go out to RFP for these services, or we've had Wold along the way here, they actually did the elementary or middle school, the old high school, back when it was first built. Now they've done our condition assessment and our needs assessment, familiar with what we have here. If we go outside that, if we go outside for RFPs, the only thing I'm concerned about is, again, if I was an architectural firm coming in here not knowing anything about our district, I'd want to do a new needs assessment. I'd want to do a condition assessment. And kind of same with the financial manager, we'd be looking at some backlog of time there.
And expense.
Yeah, you would. You would. Again, same position as Dave. If we want to go up for RFPs, no problem with that. I'm very confident with Wold and going with a construction management option. That way we don't have to deal with a owner's rep. Any other firms or any structure, I would almost recommend we bring in another person, because we're just not familiar with them. An owner's rep is gonna, construction management firms charge about 2 to 3% of the project. Program manager will run around 9%, but that's a turnkey piece. Your general contractors are usually about 10%, above the subcontractors and their markup. Bruce, step in here anywhere you want on this process, because you're probably the most knowledgeable in this area here, and what your thoughts are.
I mean, getting a construction manager, I mean, that's how we do it, but you get them on early and they work right with the architect, they can get better budget pricing than an architect can. So then they know exactly the rates of what things cost. I mean, we do it and we do the big projects, we'll be within minimal percentage points when we go for bid with the subs. So that's how I agree with the construction manager approach rather than the GC, because they are from day one working with it, and they also drive and push the architect, as a construction manager. You're making sure you are setting that schedule, because they're the one looking at, this is when we have to start. If we don't get a GC on until right before we want to build, then you're stuck waiting, well, these drawings aren't good enough, it's just, the CM is the better way.
When this was really very helpful for someone like me when I went through it, and I know that I was drawn to the construction manager also because the contracts are still ours. And so we'll know what's in the details, rather than the general contractor. The devil's in the details.
Well, yeah, I guess we'll have the contract. They probably have one that we'll use. And how we normally do it, we work with them and they.
I'm talking for the subs,
Yeah,
right?
still even with the subs, I mean, there's language in those contracts that are gonna be from the construction manager too. They're gonna help write all those with us. I mean,
Yeah, it's
we're not gonna.
It's a very defined process here. There's just a couple of things I want to throw out here, just for you to understand. So what you read here, over the years, when I did my doctoral work in designing educational facilities, I interviewed probably a dozen architectural firms on their process, on how they build and how they design. And I've used Wold for probably 25 years because their process allows for input from many, many sources. So one of the first things that would happen the core planning team, the community planning team would more than likely get together again to just review everything. But then every building's gonna have an input team. And it would probably just be the middle school and the high school, because the elementary is purely mechanical and security. But there's design pieces in the middle school and in the high school that they want staff input, because there's total upgrading and what have you. So those are two teams that will have to be put back in place. The other piece is what I call a post team, a project oversight team, and that's where we get some community people involved that have some skill sets. And this is the team that it's probably 8 to 10 or 12 people that sit either bi-monthly or as needed with our construction managers, our architects, to look at the progress and when there's issues as far as change orders or what have you, and they really set the direction of where things are going as far as are we going to approve this, or are we going to make this change, do we have to make a recommendation to the board, plus monthly updates for you folks. There's also, when you're talking about contracts, we have to hire a construction attorney that reviews all the documents, as far as our bidding and what have you. And so, we've got one on the line for that also. So now, the biggest thing right now is what direction you want us to go with the architectural firm. And as I mentioned before, 6 to 8% is pretty common. I checked around with a couple of my colleagues that are going through construction projects, and they verified that, you get in that 7.5 range for remodeling, you're doing pretty good. If we decided to go with Wold, I would like an opportunity to negotiate, because right now they're at 7.5%, which is about a $2 million contract. But I'd like the opportunity to see what we can get. If we go to bid or RFP, you could get numbers anywhere from 5 to 8%, but then you have to be careful what you get, because anybody comes in here with a 5% bid for services, we're gonna have trouble. I just know that. You're gonna pay for it somewhere along the line.
Yeah, and I know that Wold is pairing, I've talked to them already, they're pairing with KFI, who's an engineer. Who's another very strong engineer that does a great job with all the mechanical systems we have here. I mean, that's gonna be such a large portion.
It's probably 80% of our project is mechanical, 70 to 80%.
They're the ones we want.
And I've used them before, and, you know, the only reason I've stuck with some of these people is because when there's trouble, they're there to get us out of trouble. And I can't tell you how many times that we've had situations with other well-known firms that these two companies have stepped in to make it right.
Do you know how long that RFP is? At a 2-week? We would have to do a minimum posting for 2 weeks?
Minimum. It would be guessing probably a 2 month, a month and a half, 2 month delay in what we have by the time we advertised, got them in for interviews, made a decision, and they were ready to roll. I know a couple of Wolves referendums went down yesterday. They're
That's good
hungry.
news for us.
They're hungry. And that's why I would like an opportunity to negotiate, if you choose to go that way.
Wold is very well known.
They're one of the top firms in the Midwest.
And they're familiar with our sites.
And they've already done a needs assessment.
So we're
again-
looking for, yes?
Yeah, again, like Dave, you know, whatever the wishes are, you know, this, you know, it's like in your family with a construction project, it's the same thing here. We've got to have a good relationship amongst ourselves and with the firms that we're using, because again, remodeling is touchy, it's tricky stuff.
Well, trust and experience is important.
And
Me too, I
Wold
mean-
specializes in educational facilities.
Yeah, that's their big
And
ticket.
they've been around for a long time as well.
They specialize in auditoriums.
I know, Bruce, you had said thinking we should maybe do an RFP. Do you still feel that way?
I mean, it's a big chunk of money just to give somebody, and if we do an RFP, I don't know who else we would get, architects, you know, the architect who maybe worked on this school, so they would have background. It's a large chunk of money. I agree, Wold is probably, you're talking up here, they have I'd be fine, and I think they're great, but it's just, with throwing a $2 million, you know, you're kind of handing them the contract, but again, if, you know, we do some negotiation with them where, say, all right, you know, we are going to hand this, you don't have to do the RFP, which does take time. I mean, you put a lot of time and effort into those as well, so they don't have to do it, I mean, it can be,
So maybe
we
they
can
would be
do a
willing,
little,
Pardon?
so maybe they would be willing to negotiate on that 7.5%, knowing their background. They're having been here
I would
before.
like that
I
opportunity
mean, knowing that they
if we
did
go that
pair
direction.
up with KFI.
Well, what if we made it that you can negotiate, but if they're not really willing to negotiate, then you go to RFP?
There you go.
Thank you.
That
Your RFP is gonna cost, class 1 RFP,
Pardon?
Is it a class one?
class 1, it's gonna cost a little bit of money to do that.
Oh, yeah.
And there's time
That's it.
lost.
How much money?
You know, I don't have, I couldn't tell you.
10,000. I'm gonna put the substance in there so they know what the scope of work is.
So does anyone?
10,000 total or 10,000 for
10,000 just to do the
each?
RFP, probably.
Okay.
I mean, I'm guessing, it depends on who would do it.
Yeah, I think if we get some leverage to negotiate with Wold, plus they'll refund our 20,000 for our assessments. I mean, granted, in the whole scheme of things, you know, and they're based on relationships. They're, again, over the course of the career, I've dealt with so many firms. There's such a difference between firms, and it's all about, you know, we can sit down with them, work these issues out, and that's why I've always stuck with them, because they've brought my projects in under budget, and they've just been a good partner. I personally don't, I might benefit by some lack of gray hairs over the process, but otherwise, you know, you had, who was it?
Seymour Davis.
I'm trying to think of the last firm you had here. Oh my God.
Crows.
Help.
Crows
That's a
Anderson.
CM.
No,
That's
that's, you know, an architectural firm that's,
Seymour Davis.
Someone all across, wasn't it?
no,
Seymour Davis, she's saying.
well, there was a firm that was just doing a condition assessment before we brought Wold in here. LHB. There was one that just got North St. Paul, so we're never gonna get the A team.
Right.
And that's one thing we want is we want well, when you get these firms, you know, Wold is local. They're St. Paul, but they're local. You know, if we go after somebody out of Madison, Milwaukee, we're not gonna get the people here every day on the job site. And I know from them we'll get the A team. We just,
And you say 2 of theirs just went down, they lost 2, is that what you're saying? Or are you saying they
the
just?
referendums,
They did not pass.
that didn't pass, but they're more involved in the referendum process with districts. You know, we took it on ourselves. You know, we had, outside of the board, everything else was done here with, you know, with our team. They usually, architectural firms usually go into districts or construction like Kraus. They'll go in and run the elections, run the committees and the meetings and everything like that. And my experience has always been, keep them out here. And, you know, we do it internally, that way there's more credibility in the community, I think. And obviously it worked, so.
I mean, if you go ahead with whoever you negotiate with Wold, but I think the RFP for a CM, I think is the other direction that we go.
Yeah.
We wanna interview those guys, we wanna interview them with Wold, we wanna know, or whoever you pick your architect and we pick a CM. And we wanna interview them for sure, cause with the services, with the contract, with the, working with the subs and how we write those contracts, that's a huge portion of this bid work, how that gets done, and I think we have to bring them in.
Yeah, I'm total agreement with, you know, the 2 big pieces we need is, you know, the architect and financial manager. The financial manager, you got one of the best there. And, yeah, so, you know, my recommendation would be to go with Wold, continue working with them, because they know what we have. But again, you know, whatever you want to do.
Is anyone comfortable making?
I
a
liked
vote?
Katie's suggestion.
Can I move that we give Mark leeway to negotiate with Wold, and if there is no reasonable accommodation to that, then fine, otherwise then we go to RFP.
Do that
I'd be totally happy with that.
in a proposal form, so you can see it.
Yep.
Proposal form, so we see it before he does it?
No. So the negotiator,
Yep.
I got document.
Yeah, in fact, they already gave me a contract, because we needed to know what the form was and I asked them what are they gonna charge. And so I have it there, but whatever we would end up with here. And I would come back to you, because you're the ones that have to commit. I'm not taking that authority to commit for you.
And we're
I'll
meeting next
negotiate it.
week.
And we meet next Thursday, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have
Do
it.
you want to repeat again for
Do you want me
Keisha?
to read you what I have and see if
Sure.
recommend Dr. Visick negotiate rates with Wold with the ability to move to RFP if needed.
Say it
Says
differently.
our
Yeah.
architectural
So there's
firm,
no
just to
contract.
clarify.
I'll second.
Okay.
Does that sound okay, Katie?
Yeah.
Do you have, do you agree with that? Are there any other questions?
They'll do the same thing, submit the contract with their
Right,
price and
yeah.
break down
Mhm.
everything in it, so we can have that. And I saw their first one. So we can have
Yeah,
a
you
second
saw it
one.
all. So, okay.
So
Now
all
that's-
those in favor of the motion Katie made, and seconded by Lori, Tasia just read it, and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? There you go, you've got it now. So we look forward to hearing the outcome next Thursday. Good job, thanks Katie.
It's the problem with these on camera, they're probably watching.
That's all right too.
Well, now they know our bottom line.
Right.
I was gonna say, can we go into closed session? Which actually you can do. but,
So then we can scoot on to let, do you guys wanna stick around for all of it? Do you want us to go into the board reorganization? That's next on the agenda, 6. All right. Or would you like to jump to the other, what's your preference?
You know, the only reason they would be here is if there's questions on the
topics for action.
topics for action.
Yeah, that's what
and,
I was thinking
You know,
too.
if you wanna do those and then,
Is everyone okay with
but
that?
it's up.
Yeah, that's fine.
We do that? All right, so, looking at those under topics for action, do we want to do all of it as individually, or is anyone comfortable making a motion for all of them as a group?
Make a motion A, B, C, D, and E.
I'll second.
Okay, go ahead,
Okay.
Catherine.
Catherine, okay. So are there any questions on any of those? If not, all those in favor of recommended motion made by Bruce, seconded by Catherine, all as presented, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Well, great, we just saved you guys some time.
Tell Katie Francis
Well,
I love
thank
her
you.
spreadsheet.
Do that. You can email me too.
Oh, I can't I?
All right, so then we'll scoot back to, forward then. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Board reorganization, so how do you wanna go about this? Excursion. I'm sorry, not excursion, experience and opportunity, I'll take that one. Do you wanna start with board pres, do you wanna start with the treasurer, what's your preference? And do you want that person to take over right away tonight? That's my next question. Okay, so do we have little tally things?
Sure do.
Let's
I
just
think
open
we
it up.
always start with president.
Yeah,
All right, we'll
typically
just
it's
do that.
president,
Yeah.
and then that person steps in, whoever the
Yeah.
new president is to
Yeah,
run
that's
it.
fine.
I think maybe the most efficient way is just to take one and pass it around,
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
rather than me.
You bet. So first, we would need to have some nominations. So if there are some nominations for board president, anyone?
I'll nominate Marie Golda.
Thank you, Catherine. Huh. Do we have any other nominations for board president? Well, if there are no others, we would need, I think, we would need a motion to cast a unanimous ballot, but that's not gonna be coming from me. So,
I make a motion that we cast a unanimous ballot, so we don't have to.
go through the, then we don't have to write it all
I'll
out.
second that.
All right, did you get that, Tasia?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
I think, maybe was I supposed to ask if 1 and 2 and 3 times, maybe?
6, I think.
It's supposed to be 3, but I think you did, I think you did it.
Okay.
Or
Unless
you did
anyone's
at
planning on
least 2.
changing their mind.
Okay, so we'll go with that, I appreciate that, thank you much. All those in favor of Katie's motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, guys, you're stuck with me one
Thank you,
more
Marie.
year.
It's a
Yeah.
big deal. It's a big job.
It is, and I don't do it perfectly, so I need your help doing this, I really do, but I do keep the ball rolling. Sometimes a little too fast,
And
I'll
you're
work
okay.
on that.
Yeah. Catherine, vice president.
Okay, we got a nomination for Katie or Catherine? Catherine, you said?
I would nominate Catherine for vice
Okay.
president.
Do we have any other nominations for vice president?
Are you dying to do
Any
it?
other nominations for vice president?
So we'll go unanimous with that.
Okay, Bob did it. I will second that. Or no, you said, you made the motion, so you're gonna,
That's the second then.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then he's casting a unanimous one.
No, she moved to nominate.
She nominated.
So now he
Yeah,
made
that's
this,
I
So
think
we need a
that
second
I've
on
heard
yours.
anything.
I will second Bob's.
all right, Katie seconded. For Catherine, all those in favor of Catherine as the vice president, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Wonderful. Thank you, Catherine.
Give me 1 second, Marie. Do you need these?
No,
No, there's nothing
I
on
was
them.
just trying to save everybody some energy.
We'll let you say these.
Do we need?
I need this extra energy, so.
Yeah, I bet. And if you need to get up, to give more room, we understand. We don't understand. We have no idea what you're 100 degrees in here. I can only imagine.
It feels like it's gotten a little bit better.
Okay, clerk.
All right, all those in favor, anyone nominating for clerk? So our clerk here.
Katie, you're the clerk now, right?
Yes.
I'll nominate Katie for clerk.
Do we have any other nominations for clerk? Then, any other nominations for clerk, second time?
Mhm.
And a third time. Okay, then, does anyone want to cast a unanimous ballot?
I will.
Catherine, and a second for that?
Yes.
Thank you, Lori. So, all those in favor of Katie as our clerk, continuing as our clerk, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations.
Oh,
It's a tough campaign,
You're
but
like, I
Yeah.
know, right?
All right, so then we're on to the treasurer.
I'd like to nominate Lori Belargin for treasurer.
I'll second.
All right, any other nominations for treasurer?
We should probably ask if they want. but-
No.
Yep. You do it.
And I feel like we're already putting a lot on Bruce.
I know, me too.
Overseeing that. Bob, you've already got the town stuff, so probably, and you have 2 gems coming.
I do.
So if you guys, okay, so we're gonna ask one more time.
Nobody's feelings are hurt.
Yeah, not at all.
okay.
All right, there's
Thank you,
more
Cheryl.
time to come. So then we've got a nomination for Lori as treasurer, and she has accepted that nomination, and a second by Bob. No, is that right? Do I have that right? No, I missed this one.
No.
Yeah,
So,
okay. So
do we have the motion for the unanimous ballot yet? I don't know.
No, that's what I have to say it twice.
Oh, yeah.
Any other nomination for treasurer? Any other nomination for treasurer? Now we can ask for a unanimous, casting a unanimous ballot. for-
So moved.
Thank you, Katie, and a second.
Second.
Thank you, Bob. All those in favor of Lori as treasurer, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, thank you, Lori. That means you get to come in and run those bills, review those
You'll
bills.
be good at that. You're
Thank
so
you.
detail oriented.
Yeah.
Yes, and it takes time. You gotta allow
I didn't know
some
there was a
time
big
for it.
binder. Who knew?
Tub, there's a tub,
Binder.
it used to be a tub,
Binder of
Is
bills.
it-
yeah.
we still have the tub.
That's all we're,
Is it
a
you
tub,
do,
yeah.
you gotta move
It just
past
holds
that.
all the invoices. I
That's,
used to
I'm
do
gonna
that,
suggest
got
something
that
to those, so
pleasure.
when
The worst.
So then
Dave's
that,
healthy again.
did this also include people wanting to do like the CISA or the committees? Did you wanna change any of that tonight?
I think you
Like
make
CISA?
that
You make that
determination.
call.
You said,
Well, I wanna know what you guys want.
Yeah, I'm fine with
I wanna
continuing.
go on to the next subject.
Okay,
Well,
are you still okay with the scholarship? And are you still okay with the committee?
Council.
Yeah.
Okay,
Employee
we
council.
have Patty Jo here who doesn't even know what's available.
I don't
I know.
even know what you
So
guys are
can
doing.
we,
But what I'd
Put out
rather
there
she
something
got,
in writing.
you bet, but I'd rather you went to whichever ones you're interested in as you are able.
So why don't you send out an email?
Yeah.
Say what's all available, because we used to have liaison, or.
Building liaisons.
Yeah.
liaisons
I
with
put that in place
schools.
back in the day.
And it
I
has
did.
fun, and,
Kinda did.
people liked that.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. Put that back on there.
So
Okay,
Building
I was
liaison.
wondering, yeah.
there's a
We just go to
maybe I can
programs
dig it
and-
up from,
Oh, my
Have a
kids
presence.
love that.
Yeah, just so that the
Okay.
staff
Send
had
it
somebody
out.
to go to if they need it.
and
Yeah.
people could, yeah, I'm interested in doing that, or no, I don't wanna do it anymore, I don't have time.
yeah.
I mean, it was a sheet.
I remember
Shoot it
that sheet, I
file.
probably
I'll
have a
probably
copy of it,
figure out and find it.
an old
Well,
one.
Yeah.
thank you for bringing that up.
Okay, I can
Marie,
do
did you
that.
get that thing on the delegate assembly from
Did-
CISA?
I'm sorry, did I see
There's
that?
there's something that's, we need a rep for the delegate assembly for CISA. Is that a time sensitive thing or not?
I've already told them that we usually have our board meeting that same night, and in the past, it's never been an issue.
Okay.
And for some reason, we still get selected. So if you're interested in being the CISA rep, or if someone else is,
I
please,
think you've been doing a wonderful job of that.
I am so glad that they have
It's
Zoom,
so
because Zoom really saves me 2 hours
Oh, yeah.
every time they have a meeting. It's really, I mean, it's nice to interact with those guys, and you get good feedback, so if someone else is interested, it's interesting, it really is.
But it's an entire evening.
It is, and the Zoom saves you the travel time, which for me is significant. So I'll send that out,
Okay.
probably not before next Thursday's meeting though. It will
That's
probably
not time sensitive.
Yeah, probably closer to the June one. Now then, we're on to the board meeting schedule, item 8.
We skipped number
7.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Oh,
don't worry,
easy to
that's
do.
not
I don't even know
important.
where it is.
Oh, that's
Uh,
okay.
Compensation plan.
Wanna get us all
Oh,
shot?
I'm sorry, yeah.
That was a
Yeah,
joke.
I'm sorry,
No,
my
that's
my
okay.
mistake.
Just let me preface this a little bit here because, I mean, this is something we've been, talking about for the last, 2.5 years. And just not having, the opportunity to make some significant changes in our compensation plan. Now, we're in a position where we can do that. We're in the process right now, Dave and his group here have been updating credentials, so we have the right data. I think that's already been sent off to McGrath to upgrade her projections on the 3 models that she presented to us a year and a half ago. Plus, so we actually have 4, plus the one we have right now that we're using. So we'll have 4 models to look at. But what I wanted to get from you is other pieces that are important that you're hearing out there that we deal with in a compensation model. So, you know, since I've been here, you know, I've just heard about some of the discrepancies that have been, you know, in pay, and I see this every time we hire someone. You know, I get a model from Dave. When we hire someone, we look at several things as far as, you know, and this has a sheet of a range of people that are have the same credits, same years of experience, or like. And when I look at this to create a range for a new hire, I'm always seeing these 10 to 15-year people are significantly lower than our new people. Is that kind of, am I saying that right?
Yes.
So,
That's a problem.
you know, I just need to know how important it is to
Make an adjustment.
Very.
how to adjust this, or, you know, your willingness to do this. Is that a priority for you? I don't have an answer right now, but I've got some strategies that other districts have used.
I'd like to hear
That-
how they've done it, so that we don't end up correcting this and then creating a bigger issue somewhere else, or missing something.
Okay, but let's clarify. These people are already below
Right.
in their years of service, and they've dedicated many years of service to this district.
Yes,
So
that's what
unless
I
you
said.
do correct it, it just gets worse.
If you,
Because the 2% on less money is less money.
right,
Yeah.
you know, one strategy would be and we're doing this right now, we're looking at everyone's credits and years and what have you. You know, if you created a grid and you plugged people in where their credits are and years of experience, because part of the issue was they weren't getting credit for their credits or their years of experience, what have you. So I mean, that's one strategy. It just, I need a way to attack this thing. So I don't know if,
Well, my number 1 priority is addressing the inequities in the pay scale as it currently is. So before we go to any new model, the first thing I would like to do is address the inequities. Last year, we hired 18 new teachers. That's one of the worst things you can do for your student achievement, is having a recycling of staff. 18 teachers in a district our size is a tremendous amount. And many of them left because of pay issues. Out of those 18, we only had 6 retirements. So my number 1 priority is addressing those inequities. And the second priority for me would be to separate pay from effective educator. It was never designed
It
to be
wasn't.
linked to pay in the first place.
And
That
they
was a-
didn't want it. They specifically said, don't tie it.
and that was another question too, is, you know, all these stipends and things, I think we need to revisit, you know, how we operate with those, but, you know, I'm gonna schedule, you know, we did the staff survey, and this is all sitting
Yeah,
there.
we need that.
And so I wanted, but we just had so many things on our board meetings, so hopefully in June, we can take some time and look at that, and they'll do a presentation for us. The 2 biggest things on there was compensation issues and internal communication. You know, the internal communication, I've got ideas on that already, but the compensation piece is big. I mean, it's you know, it's huge, and, you know, I know, you know, some of these people didn't leave just for the pay, but it's a factor. You know, and I actually had to tell a couple of people, you know, that came in and said, hey, I can get this over here. I said, you know, right now the way it is, I'd take it if I were you, because I don't have the authority to make these adjustments on my own, and I just need to know if, as a board, that's a direction we want to go in, because then we can start running numbers. But we have to have a strategy on how we do that. And again, when I started bringing people in here, you know, on my watch, you know, I could see what was happening, but we had to have a way of not continuing that piece, so that's why we started creating ranges and tried to get people in. But, you know, again, it's tough when you've been teaching here for 15 years and you bring people in above you. But if you don't do something, you're just perpetuating that
It
discrepancy.
gets worse and worse.
So, again, I think that's the biggest thing we gotta fix is.
So I like Lori's idea. Can you come back and tell us what the impact would be to fix the internal inequities first? And then we can deal with how we want to address
The
it.
first thing is to determine,
But we need
you
to
know,
know
exactly
how.
where the inequities are and how,
Right.
you know, how big, what's the range of the inequities?
Yep.
And so we'll determine that, and we got a pretty good idea. That's why we're upgrading all the years of experience and, you know,
You're updating your
Our
seniority
data.
list.
so we can,
Well, and some of the data has been wrong.
yeah. And
On
that's
how
what
many
we're trying to,
credits
that's what we're
people
trying to
And
clean
how
up.
many years they've been of experience they have.
Typically, in, and you know, in other districts, every single year, that list comes out. And everybody gets an email on it, and every building gets a hard copy that's put up in the lounge. Everybody knows
That
exactly.
way it gets.
Yeah, it doesn't list your salary, but it makes so that,
Oh,
and
but the
you
but the
can then
sen-
see, are my credits right, are my license, is everything right?
That's important. That's really important.
But see, you know, everyone that's come on, you know, has agreed to these regardless of,
Oh, I
you know,
know.
when they, and, you know, again, right or wrong, I'm not condemning the past because things were able to do what they're able to do.
Yeah, it was a
And maybe
different
there are
time.
budgetary rationale for it or whatever, but there's just inequities. And, you know, it's hard when people pay for an education and they have these credits and they're not getting credit for them. I struggle with that one.
The other side of the coin is that the times have changed.
Yeah.
There's a teacher shortage right now. It's not like in 1988 when there were 700 applicants for one fourth grade job. So we have to be in the business of market value,
Right.
You know.
or we're gonna lose people.
You know, just a sidebar on that piece too is, you know, some of the things that we do, you know, you've got people that wanna see black and white pieces, and then, you know, I always try to lend to more of a flexible piece, treating people like professionals. You know, there's things we can do that kind of skirt the letter of DPI, you know, like our minutes thing, you know, minutes of the day. I mean, there's some things we can do to make it a little easier on teachers rather than, oh, we gotta do 10 more minutes here or 5 more minutes here. You know, is it to the letter of the law what they would wanna see, but it doesn't get us in any trouble if we just make it more team friendly or more employee friendly. And, you know, that's why in that makeup time, you know, we asked to forgive a day and a half. I mean, these people put in time. But there's a certain level of accountability that you guys have to justify out in the community too. So I think it's a good balance. I think this is a direction that I'd like to see. And again, fixing some of these pieces with the people that are still, you know, every year it gets less and less of those people that have been, you know, been wounded by that, but I don't wanna lose any more.
Right.
Because
I think
they
we all
can
agree
go to
it
other
needs to be
districts and make more money.
Is that something we can have by the June work
Yeah,
session?
can we have that by the June work session?
Because I know that's what we
It's a
talked
pri-
about
it's a-
way back in
Yeah.
January.
It's a priority, you know, I'll make it a priority, because, you know, again, I went through that whole staff survey and everything, and there's two biggest things is compensation, and, you know, when those things stick out like, you know, glaring, you gotta fix them.
And that's what
So-
they say in the employee council meetings too.
Mhm.
I mean,
Now
it's
we have the
huge.
opportunity to
So,
become.
If you're,
shoot
if
for
you're all on
Julia.
the same page
Yeah.
as far as making that a priority, then we can start getting to work on this.
But
Is
it's
there-
also,
A possibility of doing what Catherine said they do in her district about verifying with each employee that this is accurate?
I'm sure when we put, so what Dave and Jody and their team has been verifying everything from the records, then we'll get that out to them and let them take a look at it.
Okay.
Right.
But, you know, again, if they have graduate credits, I wanna pay them for graduate credits, you know,
Well,
and
there
their
are
years of
policies,
experience
though, in the
will,
employee handbook that if they didn't fill out the paperwork and get it approved, and they have to put in a
Oh,
letter
I had
for
to have
the,
pre-approval for everything.
yeah. I mean, so, you know, if they didn't do the paperwork, there might be a reason.
and that's what we're finding out now, because, you know, there was actually some really good notes. I've looked through several of the files because I wanted to start you know, I had to pull maybe half a dozen files, just, I wanna see how these things stack up and why there's a discrepancy in some of these pieces. And some of it was during that 5-year span before the compensation plan. Some people took advantage of the opportunities to advance, some did not. So it's not all just the, the Act 10 piece. There's some other factors, that's what we have to figure out. But if that's a driving piece, which
Sounds like
I'm
it is.
hoping, if it is, then we get to work on it.
But that's not the only thing, because we still have to put all of them on, hopefully, the
Right,
McGrath grid, so.
Yep. Yeah, and that's,
This is step one at least.
yeah, and that's the thing, we
Okay,
have
I just
kind
wanted
of
to
take in
clarify.
pieces, of where we're at, but now we can start having, we'll make that a priority, and, we fully intend to do that after a referendum,
Yeah.
because we just didn't know what we had to work with, and now,
So are
We're
we
gonna-
pushing you too much to ask for that for the June work session?
well, we'll have something, I
Okay.
don't know how far it'll be, but it'll be a priority now,
Great.
because we said it would be once the referendum.
And we
Well,
just,
but we've also
would-
got now the referendum
I would
building.
say we have a deadline by the August meeting.
Yeah, I
We
mean,
wanna
Before
have,
the
whatever
school
we
year
do, we
starts.
wanna have in place for next year.
We're done.
Yeah.
So-
We wanna have it in place,
Yes.
that's my goal, is
I
to,
don't care
Well,
if we have it in
and
June.
we also,
I want it done
Yeah.
personally.
Well, July 1 is the new year, and make it easier for bookkeeping,
Right.
we can have it by then, but if we can't, we can't.
and we also agreed to do our administrators again this summer.
Yep.
I don't wanna have that done again before the year starts, so we don't have any of that lingering
no,
for months.
we'll get it, we'll get it.
Good.
I'll
It
do
sounds
my
like
best.
Well,
we're on the
and
same.
But I just needed this direction, because I don't wanna make any assumptions for you, because when we start digging into the, the adjustments, I wanna have a sound rationale for making a recommendation,
yep,
so.
and I
Do you
know-
feel confident that you know what the direction is
Yeah,
here?
yeah,
All right.
I do,
I'm
I just
sorry.
wanted that
just
to
wanted
hear it.
say, I think one of the biggest challenges, I think you know what it is when we bring teachers that we were kind of recruiting after and bringing them in and, well, this is what I'll come to teach here, and we pay them in excess. And then, well, the equal linear, 10 years at 24 masters, I'm making 60, you just brought in somebody here with the same credentials, same years of service for 80. I'm exaggerating a little bit. So what are you gonna do? You gonna bring that person up to 80?
Well, we have.
Or what do you, how are you gonna fix that without
That's the rub.
costing
That's,
a significant amount of money?
Like
So that's
we're
what I'm
having
saying
conversations.
is gonna be the challenge.
Yeah.
From what I've seen though, it's not that new people were brought in significantly higher than they should be, given the pay scale. It's that they were put on the pay scale where they should be, but the people who've been in our district
aren't there.
aren't there.
Yeah, that's the rub, exactly.
So knowing what that total cost would be, we can decide, can we do it all at once? Do we need to do it over 2 years' time?
Yep.
Depending on that.
And that's what River Falls did, they stepped it, they
Yep.
gave people a couple steps a year rather than until
Yep.
they figured out the catch-up piece, so. You know,
Right.
again, right now, again, past referendum, we're not rich by any means, but we
No.
have some room to make some of these moves now. And anything that governor gets now is just gonna help.
And we want to pull together, and I think
Yeah.
this is a good way to hold us all.
Since
together.
I've been here, that's been probably the biggest in my ear piece, and what,
Well, people should
That's
be
okay.
making what they should.
Yeah.
There's
So-
no argument.
okay, that gives me enough to go on there.
Great, all right, so then we'll scoot right on to item 8, unless anybody has anything else they
No.
want to clarify on 7. On to item 8, the board meeting schedule, which we tried to do last year too, and we still ended up changing a few, but it gives us a skeleton.
And this is based off of what I have for calendar event dates at this moment in time, knowing that things could still be added, which we ran into this year, but.
Yeah, and I appreciated your working around the music things.
So look, I mean, maybe I'm just clueless, but
There was an error on there.
on June 7th?
Yeah,
Yes.
June 2020 for
You are
option,
not clueless, okay?
the June 2020 dates are not correct.
Okay,
Those are for the 2019 calendar.
Yeah.
okay, I was hoping that was it. So option B, that was the,
Can we look at January and February again? I mean, I like serving on the board, but I don't wanna give up all of my holidays for Monday night.
January 6th?
So most of the months
Oh.
have the same dates, but option B addresses MLK and President's Day.
right.
Yeah.
Oh,
See,
no,
look at option B,
look
yeah.
over there, yes.
Option
So
A
what?
frankly does not work for me. I'm gonna miss a lot of dates if we go with A.
So does option B have the majority?
Option B,
With the correction with the June dates.
Yeah, it wouldn't be June.
Which, if you're okay with it, I'll strike those right now as we're talking about it. I just didn't wanna do it before
Oh,
it was
yeah.
published.
Yeah.
Does anyone
So,
know they're July 22nd, it's a Monday,
what?
On the,
instead of July 15th?
I think if we have Zoom available,
Well, so
it should make it a little easier.
if it could stay as consistent to the first and third,
Yeah.
without any exceptions, to make some consistency, Thursday nights, we should be
Right.
meeting today. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Because if we had anybody showing up on Monday that had
Right.
something to address the board with,
Right.
and it was contentious, they're hot as a pistol right now, showing up here.
So,
There's another correction in August. You've got the first and the second instead of the first and the third. Was there a reason for that? Because it's consistent on option A and option B. You have the first Monday and the second Monday.
oh yeah.
yeah, because there wasn't any conflict.
What's the conflict with the third Monday?
Oh wait, hold on. Sorry, I didn't understand your question.
on the 19th, you mean?
Shouldn't it be the
August?
3rd and the 17th?
It should be the
Third
fifth,
and
I'm talking about August.
5th and
August.
17th.
Oh, of 19.
Yeah, it should be the fifth
I
and
can
the
pull up.
19th.
the schedule. If you give me just 1 second.
Change that one to the.
And I like how you send them out to us. Took me a while to figure out why I was getting an entry from Monday and from Thursday. And then I realized she's saving us that effort. Great,
Okay,
love it.
so August, there is not a conflict now on that. So we could change that one
To
too.
the
To the 19th.
19th, yeah, so we'd say consistent.
So, just so that I'm clear, going back to June, as I'm there, that would then go 1st and 15th.
The June.
3rd?
3rd and 17th.
Well, the 3rd and 17th of 2020 are Wednesdays.
What about, okay.
So the first
First and the
15th
first
sound
and the-
great.
The 1st and the 15th.
Thank you for doing this, TJ.
Mhm. So
And I'm only really editing right now option B because it sounds like that's what we're going to be
Yeah.
preferencing.
and Bob, is that okay with you?
Are you good with
The-
option
the-
B?
When I said option B,
I'm
you
also
said
stated
why
why.
me? That's how I read
I
it.
didn't see that.
Okay, so you're good then.
So then in August 2020, we, 1st and 3rd would be, or I mean August 2019, sorry. 1st and 3rd would be the 5th and the 19th.
Correct.
So change
Correct.
the 12th to the
To
19th.
please.
Yes.
So the months with, Memorial Day, or, excuse me, Labor Day, I see we're gonna meet on the 2nd and the 3rd. Does that give enough time between the work session and this business meeting for any clarifications or?
What month are you talking about?
There's
Talk about September.
There's one more date that we need to squeeze in there too. The annual meeting is in September too.
October?
And then the budget in October, we usually push that back 1 week.
Well,
For the
I think
final.
when I looked at that, it was like the 3rd. We're usually around that time. It's the 3rd week.
Oh, I see.
So that we should be okay. I can verify with Dave before
Yeah.
next week.
Yeah.
To answer your
You're saying
question,
push the
Bob,
16th.
my preference is always that the meetings are not back to back. Just, I mean, and I'm not even the one populating the information, but just even getting the information for it is real tight. Cause
Right.
like, now after tonight, I'm giving you guys the agenda for next week tomorrow. And
Well,
that, it's just a tight turnaround
And it's
time,
hard for us to review
right?
the information.
So are we thinking the 23rd would be better?
Well, I think that's in fairness to everybody, you know.
So the
That's why
19th.
even the July one,
The
I see.
July one is
July
the
one
same
to the
thing.
22nd.
So we have a week for them to gather information, for questions that we might have, and hey, bring that to the business. And
Yeah,
now
I'm
you
good
only
with
have
that.
Yeah.
5 days
So
versus.
try and keep 2 weeks between you.
and then
Oh,
As long as they stay on Mondays.
Chromebook, we could ask them, hey, give us some firm prices by the Christmas meeting. Well, I'll have to wait on the vendor and then get prices back.
So you're thinking July and September,
July and then-
should just move that second one up.
Well, 'cause that's the third Monday, but I didn't do July
I think that's
1
good.
because that's July 4th week.
Yeah.
So if we-
So if you guys are okay, just so that I'm, cause I wanna check those changes then against the calendar that I was trying to
Yeah.
avoid things.
Yeah.
And then I will have that ready for Thursday.
Thank you.
Is that fine?
That's awesome.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
And are we starting at 6:30?
6:30, I think is what we
Well,
agreed on.
Thursday is free for Catherine, but 6:30 is, since we said we wanted to move
No, I'm
that
talking
way.
about the calendar.
For this
Yeah,
calendar.
For once we move on, 6:30.
6:30, not 6 anymore?
Correct.
In the summer, I'm okay with 6.
I personally like 6, so
Yeah.
I do
I'll
too, but-
object on the 6:30. I'm just gonna state my.
And that's okay.
I like
I
6.
like 6.
That's
Do we
okay,
want-
I'll just
do we
come
wanna-
late.
Do we wanna go half the year 6 and half the year 6:30? I think that'd be a
We keep it the
compromise.
same, once we set it.
Okay.
Just go with 6. I'll just come.
I'm just saying that's my
How
personal.
many months
I
do you
have to come straight from work, I
Yeah,
don't get to
I
go
know.
home, so.
I like the 6:30 myself better too.
I'm not gonna go home if it's at 6:38.
Oh.
I'd prefer 5, just so I can.
I would too.
What do you want?
How many months do you do hockey?
All but 2. Well, it starts again in July.
It's a
Oh my
dedicated
goodness.
breed.
Well, I
The
think the
majority
majority
said
said
home at
6:30.
5.
You okay with that?
I'm okay with either.
Okay.
So I'll,
kids.
Right.
yeah,
Dip out.
6:30 it is, I think.
I just like to get home a little bit
Yeah.
earlier.
Me too,
Yeah.
so let's
Me
focus
too.
on us to get through it quicker.
Would you entertain anything about like, since work sessions are half year, to start those
Well,
at 6?
I know, I'll be careful.
Back on.
I'm sorry,
I
what-
like to keep them
Sounds-
on.
sounds like 6:30.
This is just
Yeah.
6:30.
6:30, one a
Thank
day.
you.
Get a nice list.
Hey,
of-
as long as it's hockey, I can go.
Yes, you are. We want you to see your kids too.
Well, some days.
And we appreciate your dedication to hockey.
But then we just have to make the meeting a half hour shorter to make it happy.
Concise. I'm good with that, yeah. I think we're all good with that.
So what are the
There's
July,
no
or the
give and
June,
take.
what are the
Okay.
June meetings at, 6?
So, yeah, that was my second
Yeah.
follow-up. Keep the June ones at 6,
Please.
Yeah.
Sure.
start the 6:30 time
For the next.
for
sure.
July.
Yep.
Correct.
Okay.
Sounds good.
All right.
We're meeting
Are the June meetings the
Yeah.
5th and the,
What, a Thursday
or
again?
the 3rd and the?
Oh, yeah, I've said that.
There was a
now.
concert, there was a concert on Monday night,
They
that's why.
are,
3rd and the 17th.
yep, the 3rd and the 17th.
Okay.
Is there a reason, I know that there's a band concert scheduled for May 4th, but other than that,
May 4th?
No.
I'm talking about 2020.
2020?
Oh,
Okay.
There's a band
You know,
concert already
Yeah, so
scheduled?
we're talking about changing the,
Because I think we
Meetings.
should support
Hey.
our arts.
Oh,
I really
well, you
do.
know what,
Figure
there's
out the
plenty of other activities on Monday nights.
The 18th is probably regional track.
You're correct.
Of May?
Yeah.
No, I don't know why
Might
we're
be.
accommodating one particular.
Because they only do
It's
it
next Monday.
once every 3 or 4 months.
As
Even
opposed to
that.
20 hockey games or 20 basketball games.
That's why.
That's a good
then why
point.
do they have to have it on a Monday?
That's so hard to fit it in other schedules. I'm serious, because this has been for every year.
And you've got,
Have it on Sunday night.
but you've got these kids participate in other activities
Yeah,
too, you know,
that's true.
sporting's usually
Athletics.
Tuesday, Thursdays, Fridays,
Marie, what time do they
Wednesdays is kind of
start?
a forbidden day.
So why don't we do a 5 o'clock board meeting
We could.
and just kick butt to get here, we'll just come.
What?
Could we just kick butt to get here by 5 o'clock so that Marie could be done by 7 and get to her band concert?
And you know,
I'm okay with that. I really want to be
there are
able to support
times
the
when,
arts.
you know, we have light agendas and we don't have time-sensitive pieces. You know, a lot of districts go one meeting a month, I don't know how we do it, but if we have a light agenda and it's not time-sensitive, we can cancel a meeting too.
Well, we don't have a quorum, so we can just, if you wanna go to the band concert, go to the band concert. If we have a quorum, we can still have a meeting.
Yeah. You can keep it on
Another
the fourth.
option is,
Keep it on the fourth,
can she
highlight.
leave early
Yeah.
if we're
Yes.
not done?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I'm gonna leave early in all the June meetings. So,
We'll be
2 to
consent.
yeah, I'm leaving early both.
It's not the military.
So that's
We're
fine.
not in shackles.
So I will just adjust as best I can to allow 2 weeks between,
Yes,
and then come with that next Thursday.
thank you.
What do we do with the June? June is,
June is
Well,
still.
June is still on this schedule right now, so it's not on there.
oh, okay.
June
Okay,
2019
I
is on this.
was going motorcycling
All
for a
right,
week and
so
I've got
we'll
it
look
set.
at this then for final approval at next Thursday's meeting. All right, so then we're at 10. Once we're on the table, I have always started with Bruce, so I'm gonna skip all the way over to Bob, because I don't wanna put you on the spot. No meetings on Thursdays. Got that. Catherine?
Tuesdays.
No, I like that idea of the 2 weeks in between, I think that's important.
That helps us.
Otherwise, I don't have anything.
Lori?
Policies.
Yep.
I'm sure
Oh,
they're
yeah.
piling up, and I know everybody loves to work on them. However, if we don't
You're right.
get going, it's gonna get worse. And I'm concerned about policy, I might have the number wrong, but I think it's 6320. It has to do with our request for proposals. We have a request for proposal out on our website right now that, you know, I really liked tonight that we got information about going out to a request for proposal for that one-on-one initiative before they actually went to proposal. And we have a proposal out for the athletic training that
I thought that was on the agenda.
no one,
Wasn't it on before, like, wasn't it on?
we've never had it on
What's
an
an
agenda,
athletic
and it's
trainer?
never been
Or sports.
talked about.
Somebody gets hurt, isn't it?
It's
Is that the
amended.
one
This
that
is
they're?
not part of the strength and conditioning program.
I
No,
know
this is-
that, but I
this
thought
is-
there was something on our agenda before that, maybe that was where I saw the RFP.
No, Trent may have talked about it, but we've been talking about this for a couple of years because we're not providing adequate coverage, we feel.
An
for-
athletic trainer.
For athletics, activity, it's purely athletics. And, you know, was it OSI used to provide it over here, then they got into something with the rates and what have you, and they switched to a independent contractor on it, and we just haven't been getting the coverage that we really should have.
So is that what it's covering? Is that what that's covering?
It's athletic training.
So that's not even something that we have a choice in. We have to provide that at certain events.
That's something else.
Well, what she's
Or are we
saying
talking two
is,
different
we
things
should
here?
be at least, and I think what we saw was on Trent's update, when you said your weekly.
Yep.
I read it there. I
That's
think
what it was?
probably where, and I agree, we should know that, hey, these
No,
are
we have
upcoming.
And we have a policy that says when we are going to, contract for services that are over $10,000,
Yeah.
we're supposed to get
Absolutely.
that information. And I don't know if this is true or not, but I think we might have just changed our contract for our lawn care.
Yes.
And I don't
That used
remember
to always come.
approving that either.
That used to always
That
come.
did.
Cause I used to have to recuse myself, cause my son worked for Shane.
Yeah, that was normally automatic renewal.
Yeah.
So in RFP,
So the RFP should
I
really
was-
be coming here.
Did the RFP lawn care? And we
Yeah.
didn't know about it?
Right?
Well, okay, this is gonna sound really bad. I didn't know about that.
Well,
right.
how is this happening?
So don't we do
Oh,
it
I
like
don't
on the
know.
budget with like even snow removal and that stuff?
Yeah.
Cause I know Trent and Dave and Jody they work on RFPs. And I knew that this was gonna come up with the training piece and that. Again, you must have saw it on the website because I didn't see it at all. I didn't know that the RFP already went
It's
out
right
for
on the
that.
front page of the.
And I didn't see it. But, you know, I knew they were gonna do something. I had no clue on the lawn care.
So we'll need to get back to the protocol.
Well, I'll find out what's going on. That bothers me because I didn't know about it.
I don't think it was malicious. I think
Well,
it
no,
was-
it
Yeah,
isn't, but I
I
just,
just-
you know, again, I wanna
It's kind of a big
trust
deal.
them and rely on them to do their job and what have you, but, you know, RFPs are kind of a public thing that you guys are gonna get hit on.
And
Uh-huh.
And that's my job is to
Yeah, we did.
make, you know,
Right.
protect you from that kind of stuff or give you the ammunition for that. And if I don't know it, you know, it's just like that interview thing. I was worked at a couple of them today about that after you brought that up and I found out more about it, but, you know, there's things that I've gone over with people that
Just bounce
if I don't
it
catch it,
forward.
I
Uh-huh.
need your eyes and ears on some of this stuff, because I
Yeah,
had
thanks,
no
Lori,
clue
for
on the lawn
catching that.
care piece.
Bruce, did you have anything?
I was gonna bug Trent when he was here, but that thing we did talk about 2 months ago
The
about
strength and
the
conditioning
strength and
program?
conditioning program. I know he wanted that finalized after the referendum to take it out of the budget now, cause they were gonna fund it out of, just to make sure they didn't raise athletic fees for next year to fund this, when we can now fund it out of the 6,000.
Well, you didn't give
out
permission to
budget.
raise fees.
Right.
You didn't.
Okay.
Holy cow, the heck, it seems like a lot of things are happening without the
But
board's
so this one, I
knowledge
just wanna
or permission.
make
Some
sure
of
we
them are
can get
happening without
that,
my knowledge too, and I wanna find out why.
hopefully we can get that approved so that,
You're never
or
here.
brought, Trent bring it to our attention again, hey,
Well,
this is
that
what we're
was-
doing.
All right, and Katie, did you, what did you?
Well,
Thanks.
okay, so when you're, I don't know when is the appropriate time to bring this up, but I'm hoping that when you are looking at upgrades to our heating and cooling, that you'll look at systems like a geothermal that might save us a whole bunch of money in energy costs in the future. And I don't know how that makes it into
Yeah.
the discussion, but I would hope that you can find
Yeah,
some
well, that's the
cheaper
stages we're
energy.
getting in with these planning committees and teams and what have you. Are they still putting geothermal in? Is that still?
Oh, that's it, it's,
Is it, I mean, it's been around forever, but the last project that
How
we
will
did,
you
we did.
select that committee? That would be my question. How will that committee be encouraged? Because I'm sure in the community we have
Yeah,
some people
we'll
that are
just-
interested.
Ask for people that are, feel qualified to sit on, that project oversight committee is a
Then you can
pretty
put that
tight
to them.
experience, we want experienced people that, bring something to the table, in the construction business, and there should be plenty of those out there. The other committees that we have, we can open it up.
So timing wise, you'd put a mailer out there, or do you want us to be asking
Well,
some?
yeah, if you know people that
Have
have
that
some
skill
skill
set.
sets that, Katie gave me the name of a person there.
Someone give it to
Uh,
that person and say,
no, it's up to Wool to do that. I mean, they'd have to,
What's that?
Suggesting, or considering that geothermal.
Oh, that's
Costing
down,
it out.
that's, yeah, that's.
I just wanna bring it
No,
up.
yeah, no,
That's
that's-
all.
Okay,
One other thing that you mentioned, that we talked about before, was that we were gonna bring it back and talk about having a committee look at policies prior to them coming to the board.
Yeah.
And I would like that to move forward.
well,
Okay.
That's the note I have down here as far as a policy
It was
committee.
just Lori.
Because
and-
we
Are you
said
guys
after
okay-
the
are you guys
referendum,
okay
so.
with that? I'll review them too. Do you like reviewing policies?
On my master's degree, I did it on policies for law enforcement,
Does that
so-
mean you would be willing
Yeah.
to serve on it? So with
God
the
bless
three,
you.
are you comfortable with
Yeah.
three of you running through them
Yeah,
first?
it'd be awesome.
So then how do you want your meetings posted?
Wait.
Because you'll
Well,
want,
there's
There's
three
only
of
three
us.
of them, you don't need to
There's
post
only
them.
three.
but you'll want some feedback.
We can figure that out later.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, if, so
these three.
Katie, myself, and Patty Jo.
okay, because, yeah.
Did you have anything that you wanted us to look
I was
at?
just gonna say, hey, that's what I did, so I got policies.
Great.
But it would be something that, if you three are gonna get together, I wanna
Yeah,
be there, because then I can take it to the administrative team, we get
Ahead
all
of
this work done before it comes in. So,
Yeah, that
yeah,
works
okay,
well.
I just wanna know which policies you're looking at, so I can read through them.
Sure.
and find
Yeah.
out.
well, they'll still
well,
be
they'll
on
still
the
send them out to you,
agenda.
but
Yeah.
they'll do the crunch
Pretty
work out of
late.
it, yeah.
All right,
Statutes.
then I'm looking for a motion to, oh, I don't have one to adjourn on here, do I not need to adjourn from here?
Oh, so sorry, please
No,
do.
that's okay, motion to adjourn, anybody?
Yes.
Thank you, Bruce, thank you, Bob, I'm
I'll
taking you as the
I'll
first,
second.
Bob as the second, sorry, Joe. All those in favor of adjourning? Aye, thank you, any opposed? Great, we are adjourned at,
Thanks, Marie.
is that 7:50? 7:48, I got it on my. Great, thank you, Tasia.
Yes.
Well, you just gave me my work for the next 6 months. so-
Yeah, you got, well, you don't have 6 months for it though.
No, yeah, it's like, wait,
Statutes or whatever.